What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we have the Complete Warlords Ruin Dungeon Guide for Dummies, showcasing every single mechanic of every single encounter, as well as secret chests and loadout tips, so you have the knowledge you need to go forth and complete this activity and get that sweet new dungeon loot. Guys, I do also want to say that all of the different encounters and traversal sections are going to be time-stamped in the description down below, so you can fast forward to whatever section you might be stuck on. And remember, if I can teach you an entire dungeon, I can probably teach you a lot of other stuff, so make sure to hit subscribe. Now, let's get started here with the first thing you're going to need to do, which is actually outside of the dungeon. You will need to pick up a specific quest. Now, this quest, as you can see right here, is given to you by Ikora Ray in the tower. Once you obtain this quest, you can now launch the brand new dungeon from the EDZ destination, as you can see. Now, starting things off, there is a bit of a traversal section. Essentially, if you go forward here and get to this part here where you're blocked off, you've gone a little too far. Backtrack and instead skirt along the mountainside, as you can see. Eventually, you're going to find a chest, but if you open it, a bunch of screebs are going to spawn and you get nothing. This is a very common theme throughout the entirety of the dungeon, these false chests. So make sure to look at the chest for like a glow and also a little bit of an ether effect that appears around it, and that will help you know if it's one of these trap chests. In any event, continue around the mountainside, cross this bridge, and then you will eventually, after fighting some enemies, get to the very first encounter, and we already have a boss fight. And before you start this boss fight, guys, make sure in your seasonal artifact you have the perk From Whence You Came selected, which is going to increase damage against taken and scorned combatants, which is everything throughout this entire dungeon. So, upon starting this encounter, you're going to immediately notice that the boss is immune. Then, after fighting some enemies for a short while, the boss will spawn this right here. It's essentially the taken version of a Scorn Captain's like elemental turret. But really, before you can do much to it, you're going to be teleported into a floating metal cage, as you can see right here. Now, if you do nothing in this cage, you will just die. All three teammates are going to be in a cage, just in different locations around the map. So what you need to do to escape is, as you can see right here, you shoot the blighted eyes that are going to spawn around this cage. There's 3 you need to shoot. Then when you shoot all 3, as you can see, the door will actually open and then you can just jump out. Now, you can shoot your teammates' blighted eyes from across the maps. Like if they can't find one, you can see it. You can absolutely help them out. Now, once you get back down here, you're going to have a little bit of extra time, depending on how fast you shot those blighted eyes, to deal with those weird Scorn turrets. So what exactly are you supposed to do? Well, as you can see right here, there is a white circle around it. So you actually have to stand inside this circle and shoot the taken orb, or at least we thought. I'm coming back here via editing because apparently even though you get hit markers, you don't need to shoot it, you just need to stand within the white circle. Eventually it will turn purple and kind of be destroyed. So for the rest of the video, I'm gonna say you need to shoot it, but you just need to stand near it because eventually, when you destroy at least one of these turrets, you're going to get a new buff in the corner of your screen called Wish Imminent, and there's going to be a timer counting down. When it eventually reaches 0, as you can see, it's going to be replaced with a brand new buff called Nareem's Wish Empowerment with another timer. This is actually going to let you damage the boss, and the number of those taken turrets you destroy, the number of Wish Imminence you get, is going to translate into more time that you can actually have the Wish Empowerment and more time to damage the boss. Now, as for what to damage him with, well, he kind of just stands around and there's really not too much else going on in terms of other enemies pressuring you. He is going to stomp, but it doesn't seem too often. So if you want to plant a well and go to town with, swords or shotguns or something a little bit close range, you can absolutely do that. Certainly, as you can see in the background gameplay, the Berserker Titan Super did a lot of work. And once that duration is up, that whole sequence of events is going to start over again. The boss is going to become immune. You have to go around and kill the Scorn enemies. Then you are going to either get teleported into the cage, or maybe you'll see a turret spawn first. But regardless, escape the cage, head down to those turrets, and shoot that center. Now, it should be noted that a few times during the gameplay, you're going to see me shoot the center from outside that white circle. That's just us learning the mechanics. You do actually have to be inside that white circle to damage it. Regardless, you're going to keep going. You might be teleported to a cage another time. You destroy more of these taken turrets. Eventually, you'll get another buff with another timer to hopefully take down this boss. However, when you do take this guy down, you're not going to be able to get your loot, at least not yet, because as you can see, you're actually going to be teleported into a prison cell, and you're going to have to figure out how to escape. Now, I'm going to do my best to explain this. A lot of the progress we made was just trial and error and trying random things, but we did eventually figure out what really mattered to finally let us escape and grab that loot and continue forward. So, when you're in this prison cell, as you can see, if you look around, you're going to see these small circular objects. Some are going to be above doorways, in other cells, like in various locations around. Now, if you shoot these objects, as you can see, they're going to start turning counterclockwise. And then importantly, if you shoot them again, they'll stop. And then if you shoot them again, they're going to turn clockwise now. So they'll change directions. On top of that, guys, as you can see right here, if you're standing in this cell specifically, there is a lever to activate. So there's 6 of these spinning gears total. What you need to do is enter a code by having a certain amount spinning clockwise and the rest spinning counterclockwise, and then hitting the lever to try out the code. Now the code is determined by these scratched numbers in certain cells. So you can see right here we have 4 in white. White is going to mean clockwise. Then in a different cell we have 2 in orange. Orange means counterclockwise. So our code is going to be 4 clockwise, 2 counterclockwise, and that should open the main doors. Now what my team ended up really doing in our run was just brute forcing it. We tried 1 clockwise, the rest counterclockwise, tried it out. Maybe it would open 1 single door and that's about it. Then we tried 2 clockwise, the rest counterclockwise. Hit the lever to try that out and keep ascending in the amount of clockwise spinning gears, right? So again, if you're having trouble, you can just brute force it that way, but you should be able to determine 1 single code from those scratched numbers. Now, after being let out of the prison cell, you're going to grab your loot, and then you have a pretty darn long traversal section. So what you're going to need to do is make your way through this castle. You are going to see enemies every once in a while, and importantly, there's going to be a lot of traps. As you can see right here, like sometimes you head down through the floor, and other times there's a bunch of spikes that are going to instantly kill you. You also want to be vigilant for these little like vents on the side of the wall. Those are going to shoot out spikes if you go through them. So like if you see them both on the ground, jump over it. If you see them kind of up high, crouch under them. If you see the vents on one side, you know, squish to the other side of the wall, and you're gonna see me in the background gameplay like making the route you do need to eventually get out of here. So I'll just let that play right here. However, I will say the one other thing you need to be aware of is that there's a ton of these false chests, as you can see. So again, look for that little bit of like an ether glow. You can really see a good example of it right here. If it's glowing like this, that's probably not a good sign. In any event, guys, eventually you will make your way to kind of this section here where you jump up and up and up, and then eventually make your way outside of the castle to the cliffside. So jump up here, get to this bridge, jump across, and guess what? Even more traversal. So you have this kind of big castle entrance, but nothing really is in here. Instead, what you actually need to do is head to the left and stick to the side of the castle, jumping on these kind of little objects jutting out. Eventually, you will see this kind of open sewer that you jump in here and continue forward into the castle. Now, after that, you're going to do a little bit more traversing, and then eventually you will come outside to this area here, and we have another encounter. So, upon starting this encounter from shooting the Taken Orb in the center of the arena, a big Taken Ogre is going to spawn, yet another boss fight. So, here's what you need to do. You're going to see a bunch of enemies spawn around the center of this arena. Importantly, they're going to include these yellow bar Minotaur mini-bosses. You want to take these guys down sooner rather than later, because you need to kill them to cause some other important adds that we'll talk about in a sec to spawn. You also have these blighted eyes you want to take down as well. Now, after you do take those things down, on the left side of this arena and on the right side, there's going to be these big Scorn Captain mini bosses that spawn, as you can see right here. And when you kill these guys, they're going to drop that Taken Scorn turret that we saw in the very first encounter, and you destroy them in the same way by standing inside that white circle and shooting at the center. But importantly, during this whole process, your screen is going to start to get more and more blue, and if you look in the corner of your screen, you will see the Biting Cold debuff, and it will grow to ×2, ×3, eventually if it gets to ×10, as you can see, the entire team will wipe. So, how do you avoid this? Well, located around the outskirts of the map, as you can see, you have these kind of pillars of flame. If you go near them, then you can see in the corner of your screen you have Shelter from the Storm, and the Biting Cold debuff will go down extremely quickly. So you can go to these objects, get rid of the Biting Cold debuff, and then leave again if you need to, destroy those Taken turrets, kill some bosses, kill some guys, revive a teammate. You do have some time to resist the Biting Cold, just don't let it get to ×10. Now, eventually, guys, you will see text appear in the bottom left of your screen that the Howling Winds die, and then the Biting Cold debuff will no longer be applied. You can move around the arena, and suddenly, wait a minute, there's an object in the very center back of this arena. You can pick up this object here, guys, the Solar Charge, then specifically, you will have the buff Burning Desire. Now, what the heck do you do with this? Well, located kind of around the part of the arena where the boss spawns are going to be 4 different stone pillars with metal tops, as you can see right here. If you were to approach these pillars beforehand, they would say that you lack a Burning Desire. But if you have this object, this Solar Charge, you can now go to them and, as you can see, interact and essentially light these pillars, light these beacons, and there's 4 again total around this arena. Now, importantly, guys, these Solar Charges, you can actually get more, and you do that by destroying more of those Taken Scorn turrets. So everyone you kill, you'll see that you have an imminent wish coming up. So if you kill 3, if you get 3 imminent wishes on those 3 different Taken Scorn turrets, 3 of these Solar Charges will spawn. And I do believe there is the potential for 4 turrets to be destroyed, and therefore you can get all 4 of these Solar Charges in one single run if you really know what you're doing. But more likely, guys, you're gonna get, let's say 2, you plant 2, and then you do another Surviving the Storm session, you get another 2, and then once all 4 of those pillars, those beacons are lit with Burning Desire, as soon as you light the 4th one, that's how you DPS the boss. Importantly, guys, as you can see, there's going to be a storm ongoing when you're DPSing. And these different like beacons that you've lit now with Burning Desire, that's going to be where you're DPS from. And it's also going to give you shelter from the storm. So eventually, as you can see, the boss will get closer and closer and closer and extinguish these different pillars one by one. So after he extinguishes the first one, you're going to have to move your team to the next one, DPS from there. As the boss gets closer, extinguish that one, you move to the third one, and eventually move to the fourth one. And so this means, very importantly, that you want to make sure when you're lighting that final fourth beacon, your entire team is there and they only hop into that one. If you light two at the same time, then you're going to get into damage, and because you have two teammates standing on two different beacons, it's going to like waste one. You know what I mean? So definitely make sure to go from like one at a time, like one to the next one to the next one as a full team. And guys, that's really it for the mechanics. If you don't do enough damage to kill the boss, which you probably won't, then you simply have to run that whole thing again. The Minotaurs are going to respawn, you kill them and the Blighted Eyes, you go and kill the different Scorn mini-boss captains, you destroy their turrets, all while surviving the storm. And a big tip for that, guys, even though the captains spawn on opposite sides of the arena, you want to stick together as a team. As you can see, just head to one side, easily kill that guy with all three people, destroy that turret, and then the other one will actually travel all the way across the arena to the center, as you can see right here, where you as a team can easily dispatch this guy and kill even more of those taken turrets easily. But in any event, when you do weather the storm, you're going to get a number of the solar charges that spawn. You take them, you plant them on those different beacons, and then eventually, when all four are planted, you enter into another damage phase. And guys, you simply do that same process as many times as it takes to finally kill this boss. Now, I do want to say, even though you're going to see me using a sword in the background gameplay, it was alright at best. The problem is that you do have to be inside those like lit beacons, and if you go outside for too long, you're going to start hitting immunes. So what actually did work was the brand new seasonal fusion rifle. It's a rapid fire frame that can get controlled burst. It's incredible, and that's the kind of weapon you want for this encounter. It's pretty close range, but not so close range that you want to use swords again. And so guys, let's move on to the next encounter. However, to get there, guess what? It's another traversal section, but there's actually two secret chests within this traversal section. So as you move forward, eventually you will get to this room here, and as you can see, there's just a ton of chests. Well, all but one are the evil Scorn chests. So how do you know which one is good? Well, it's the one, as you can see right here, that wasn't glowing, right? Like it didn't have a glow effect on it. It didn't have that like ether effect spawn ever. And so I committed to it. And as you can see, it actually gave me dungeon loot and didn't try to kill me like all the other ones. Now, moving on from there, guys, you are going to go outside and then be moving along the right side of this mountainside. However, we actually have another secret chest like right away, so you just keep on that right side, keep going forward, and as you can see, eventually there'll be one sitting out in the open right here. Now from there, you want to double back past this one door that I think is associated with the exotic catalyst. Then you're going to eventually see this entranceway right here, and this is what you want to go into. That's going to lead kind of back into the innards of this castle. You're going to see a massive like taken sphere floating here, and you're going to traverse on the outside of this cliffside, eventually making your way upwards. Now, as you continue forward in this section specifically, you'll kind of know that you're going the right way when you have groups of enemies spawn. Like when you kind of get to a new section, more enemies will spawn. Yep, you're going the right way. But you will have to do another pretty big jumping puzzle. You go all the way to this pillar of rock, and you're going to kind of have to jump between like several different massive pillars of rock. And eventually, as you can see, you want to make your way to the top of this kind of floating pillar, the one that's kind of off by itself. And from there, you're going to see like a little bit of a light here that tells you you're going the right way. You jump all the way across and keep going from here. Eventually, you will see the final boss that you are going to fight kind of floating around here. It is immune, so you just continue forward and keep climbing your way up this castle. And then finally, when you get to the top of the tower right here, we have the final boss encounter. So you're going to jump down, there is going to be a rally flag, and then get ready for some mechanics because there's a lot going on. So, you're going to start this encounter by shooting this taken orb. When the boss spawns, initially it will be immune. Now, importantly about this arena, it looks like you can jump on these blights and continue forward. Well, you can eventually, but initially it's actually going to give you a turn back zone. So you need to stick to this particular platform that you kind of first start on. Now, a bunch of enemies are going to spawn, a bunch of scions and so on, but there's also going to be two things you need to be aware of. There's going to be the blighted eyes that spawn around the boss. You need to take these down, and also there is going to be like damaging blights that spawn around like this area of the arena. So just shoot those or else you're going to take damage over time if you walk near them. Eventually, guys, those Scorn Captain mini-bosses that you fought last time, they will spawn. Again, 2 will spawn. They're relatively easy to take down, and just like last time, the process of taking them down will result in those Scorn turrets spawning. And, of course, you want to stand near them to eventually destroy them. However, there's another mechanic you need to be aware of. As you can see right here, you're going to get a debuff called Hex of Vengeful Corruption, and it has a timer of only around 15 seconds. So guys, when this gets to 0, you will just die. So, how do you avoid it? Well, as you can see right here, during the time that you have this debuff, there's going to be these weird glowing immune Scorn guys right here called Corrupted Hex Drinkers. Well, what you can do is punch them, you melee them, and you actually transfer this debuff onto them. So they will start to glow like all black and be more takenized, and then if they melee you back while they're like glowing black, you will get the debuff again, and the timer will still run. So if you melee them with 2 seconds remaining and they melee you back, you'll have like 1 second to deal with it, right? So what you actually need to do is, you know, while you're doing all these mechanics, you're killing the blights, you are killing the captains, you're killing those taken turrets, you're also going to need to find one of the glowing white hex drinkers, melee them, and then dip. Like, jump away, make sure that they can't melee you back. A great way, guys, because they are immune, so you can't kill them or anything, is suspend. A suspend grenade or something like that can make those guys just stop for a second. They'll be suspended. You'll maybe have some time to go over and destroy those taken turrets. Now, why do you want to destroy those taken turrets? Well, as long as you destroy at least one and get that Imminent Wish buff, you're going to actually have a damage phase where you can finally damage the boss. And as you can see, similar to the very first boss, it's called Nareem's Wish Empowerment. Now, I believe the timer is related to how many of those taken turrets you destroy. So if you destroy, 3 or 4, you're going to have a lot more time to actually do damage to the boss. Now, time is going to matter because, as you can see, there's a little bit of a white chunk in the boss's health. You have to lower this white chunk all the way down to progress to the next section of this arena. If you don't lower it all the way, you'll just do like another phase of what you just did on this same location. But as you can see, if you do lower the chunk all the way down, then the boss is going to teleport, and that area that was previously out of bounds, you can now go to there. You'll see the blights disappear from the objects you can jump on to get there, and you do those same mechanics in this new area. So you slay out on ads, you stay on top of those blighted eyes as well as the blights on the ground. Eventually those Scorn captains are going to spawn and drop those taken turrets. You kill as many of those as you can while avoiding that hex debuff by punching it off on those other glowing scorn. And then once that whole thing is done, if you survive that bout of Hex, or at least one teammate survives, then you're going to have another opportunity to damage the boss. Again, if you lower the health by at least that small white chunk, then you're going to go to another new area, as you can see right here. And you do the whole thing again. Those same mechanics happen one more time, then you have another opportunity to damage the boss. However, after doing it the third time, things are going to change. Because instead of just moving to a new location and you do those mechanics again, what's going to happen is that once you lower that chunk for the third time, the boss is going to teleport, but it's now going to be in the center of this kind of ring of debris. So you jump onto the first third of the ring, you do as much damage as possible. The blighted eyes are going to spawn and spawn and spawn, and eventually enough are going to spawn that they become immune and teleport the boss's location. So having one person dealing with the eyes by shooting them should extend the duration of this damage phase. If you do nothing to the blighted eyes, I do believe it just goes to the next damage phase sooner, right? So you do as much damage as you can while keeping on top of the eyes, and then you simply move to the next third of debris. So you won't have to do the mechanics again. As you can see, it's just another pure damage phase. The only thing you need to do is keep on top of those blighted eyes and do as much damage as you can. And then you're going to go to that final third, that final chunk of debris, and do yet another big damage phase from here. And then eventually when that is done, you'll see a taken goop appear all around this debris, and you will be teleported all the way back to the beginning. So that very bottom area of this encounter, and you go through that whole process again at this point. So now you have to do all those mechanics again, the hex, all that stuff. You move to the next upper area, do damage, move to the next upper area, do damage, and then you have that one big damage phase up at the top of the ring of debris. Now, as you can see right here, guys, if you do enough damage at that upper ring, or potentially wherever, you will actually have a final stand mechanic. So as you can see, it will actually teleport to an all new area, and you'll have a big damage phase while those blighted eyes are kind of spawning. We completely ran out of ammo, so we had to use the Berserker Titan swanging away, and somehow it actually did it. And finally, you'll be able to take this guy down and complete this brand new dungeon. And so guys, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.